It's nice to be here today because I'm a regular speaker at ForwardJS. Well, either speaker, panelist, or maybe sometimes giving workshops. But I missed the last one because I was traveling that time, so it's nice to be back here. So today's topic is about a conversational interface. I kind of give it a big title, it's future of the web. Well, maybe it is already happening, it's a current web state, could be. But anyway, it's going to be a topic about conversational interface. And my first half of my talk is more high-level illustration of what conversational interface really is. And the last part, I have some examples, a JavaScript example, and I have some demos. So this is me, I'm Tomomi, and I consider myself as an advocate of open web and technology in general. And I usually code in JavaScript and Node.js, and I write and speak about tech, so I do write a lot of blogs, but it's not like a blog like just the storage and stuff. It's more like a tutorial. It's always some technical blog writings. And I always usually hack some useless stuff. So my last talk at this conference here was about my Raspberry Pi camera with my cat. So I usually always hack something around cats. So every time I'm featured in like Hacker News, especially like top 20 in Hacker News, it's about cats. Damn, but today's topic is really not about cats though. So this is probably my first talk ever that doesn't feature any cat in the talk. Or maybe not the first, I don't know, but I usually use cats in my slides, but not today. All right, so my day job, I'm working at Slack. So I'm working at the developer relations team at Slack in San Francisco here. All right, so it's about talking to non-human. So it's all about conversation, but converse with some bots and something. So let's say this dude at this big company, well, I should give him some respect. It's Satya Nadella in Microsoft. He said the bots are like new application that you can converse with. And another dude from the big G, Sandra Pichai at Google, and he said we will evolve in computing from mobile first to an AI first world. To be honest, I was kind of surprised because I was there at Google I/O last year, and Google's been always talking about mobile first. But now they have shifted to AI first approach, probably because, well, of course it's around the marketing too, because they just have announced like a Google Home. I have one at home too, and I have Amazon Echoes, 2 Echoes at home. I don't even live in a big house, I live in a tiny apartment in San Francisco, but for some reason I have 3 the voice-assisted devices for no reason, for just fun. One in the living room, one in the bathroom, and one in the kitchen. I'm just abusing them all. Especially the kitchen one. It's just a kitchen timer. It's a fancy kitchen timer. So traditional web and app interfaces are usually like this. That's how you interact with your user, right? So you get a form input, so your user can type in something or just choose from the menu. It could be some keyboard shortcut or some sort of key combination or just, from the keyboard. So that's been the traditional way of you interacting with your user on a web or an app. And now we get some modern web with the social interactions. Well, this is not really new because it's been around probably for the last decade or so. So like social buttons, you can, something like intent, like you can tweet from elsewhere, not outside of twitter.com. You got some rating, but that can be social rating, could be just emoji reactions. That is sort of modern way of interacting. But now we get conversational user interfaces. So get Siri and Alexa. I was always afraid to say Alexa because when I was preparing this talk at home, every time I mention Alexa, you know what happens? Just echo start beeping. It's like, I don't understand what you're saying. Something. Anyways, I don't have to worry about it here. There's no echo. So of course, it's a Siri watch. So it's like, hey Siri, I'm not activating anyone's Siri here, right? Hope not. It happens. All right. Looks like I'm fine. So Siri, hey Siri, where's the Panchville taqueria? It's my favorite taqueria in San Francisco. Or just Alexa has weather. So So there are so many devices, voice-assisted devices out there. So you can just talk to, Google Home, and Apple's releasing HomePod soon. So you can just interact with devices without even leaving your couch. So there's some conversational interface in a different form factor for kids. So this is something called a Cognitoid Dino, and it has a IBM Watson brain in it. So it can actually interact with kids, can teach math, can play games, answer some questions and such. That's pretty cool. Actually, I haven't tried it yet. And there's another bot, like robot shape, form factor here. So this is a picture of my niece talking to this Pepper robot. It was adorable, but it was kind of weird because when I visited in Japan, it was actually my hometown actually. There's so many Pepper robots around there. So when I went to the sushi joint, I didn't talk to a real person. I have to deal with this creepy little guy. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I can't get my seat until I deal with this dude. And I didn't know how, but my niece is like 2.5 years old, she knew. Like, damn, technology. All those kids with technologies. Anyways, so the conversational interface can be the voice and text. So this is just a screenshot of just how the Google Assistant works. And it can be just text. So let's say this is like example of Slack. If you have like Office Space bot, it might remind you, okay, don't forget your TPS report. Okay, some people laugh, that's good. My slide contains some jokes that you had to be old enough to understand. Yeah. So there's some integration in the bot for better productivity. So I'm not actually going to give a Slack talk today, but I do mention some of the stuff. So of course, I work for the Slack platform team. So we basically make it easy for developers, write apps and bots for Slack. So you can integrate it with some other apps that everybody's using. So users don't have to leave the Slack client to do other stuff like Trello and GitHub and stuff. So now I can say, the traditional web, like a graphic interface, it's going to more to the conversational interface. Well, I'm not saying it's becoming to, but more like additional to, we get conversational interface here. So here's an example. So that can be text or voice or either. Let's say this is a theoretical, but user asked about pizza, like deliver me a large margarita pizza. And the bot might give you some multiple choice, or maybe bot has to remember your preferences or like last order, so give you some, the best order possible for the user instead of just showing everything. That's where your deep learning and AI, or so-called AI, can be involved in this process. And then user can just order something she wants and take care of the payment and everything. Could be Venmo, or could be Stripe, or whatever, just some APIs in the use words. So the conversational interface achieves a natural user interaction with a minimal user interface. So that's what it is. So there's no UI clutter. And ideally, each user spend less time. So that's another example. Two people just chatting. And one person say, hey, come over to my place. And another girl say, oh, what's your address? And after she's saying the address, maybe it sounds a little creepy, but let's say have a rideshare bot installed in this conversational system. This bot tried to request a ride. Let's say she approves it. So yes, give me a ride now. So this bot can call the cab, call the rideshare. But then I say conversational interface is a minimal UI, but I didn't say no UI. So this is an example of Alexa UI. So that uses something called a voice clone. So you don't really have to see this because you're not always looking at your devices, but it's still really a good idea to always show some indication that what is going on. So this is how the Alexa, the Amazon Echo or whatever this Alexa devices looks like. So this actual animation, I took it from developer.amazon.com. So they have a really great UX design overview there about Alexa. So they are really old concept. I mean, we've been all here about talking to AI and such. It's not really a new thing. I mean, idea itself is quite old. We just simply, code up with ideas. That's another old people example. It's 9000 from 2001: Space Odyssey. It's an old movie, but it's still good, I would say. It's a Stanley Kubrick's movie. If you know the movie, you probably know where it's coming from. It's like, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Well, now we got this. Siri said, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. So this, again, if you know the movie, this is actually really not a good example showing how we can interact with so-called AI, because this is quite evil example. But yes, but so far, and this is Ex Machina. But so far, this is not happening. We developer control everything, all of the outcomes. It's not going to happen, at least for now. Never know. Well, we get some weird experiment from Microsoft before. The the Twitter bot, became total racist within the 24 hours. Remember that? So you get really scary things going on. But today's topic is not exactly about AI anyways. So the conversational interface is about, conversational interface should be intuitive and accessible and productive. So there are some messaging platforms out there. So the Slack, and Facebook Messengers, and Telegram, and there's so many other messaging apps out there. So yeah, and then again, I'm kind of repeating myself, but messaging and a bot can be, can make your life so much easier and more productive. Oh yeah, here's some example. I just added this slide. So some example, the Slack bots we're using at Slack actually. So for engineers, I like this stage checking, deploy checking. Basically, we got a CI system and everything. When I push my when I push my code and merge my code and things, and somebody else push my code to deploy the change, I get the notifications. And they're Jira bots, so every time I get an update and such, I get notification as well. And it's something more social, like lunch string. It's actually built by my coworker, Roach. And when you want to go do lunch or get coffee with your colleagues, you can just ask, say, hey, let's go. You want to join? And here another one. This is a funny example. It's my favorite, actually. Yeah, it's an actual bot at work. I sometimes flip the table on purpose to just see this. So when you flip the board, yes, the Slack bot, just put it back and say, please respect tables. It's a little cute things. And it has some coffee, but like every day at 3 p.m. just reminds me to just get out and get coffee. Some cute little bots, add some personality and stuff. And this is not, well, we don't install this at work, but it's an interesting example by Taco Bell. They actually have created this taco bot. I know, you're like, are you kidding? But apparently they really did. And add bacon and pickle de gallo. It's like, no. It's like an insult to Mexican food. I feel like now. Well, sorry if you like Taco Bell. I haven't tried this bot because I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat Taco Bell. It's an interesting idea. You can order tacos at work. And there's some natural conversations APIs out there. So I'll show some demos later, and I use just a dialog flow. It used to be called API.ai. It was a startup bought by Google, so they changed the name, but I think I still refer it as API.ai because I used the services before the name change. And as Facebook had something similar, they might have shut it down. I should have checked, yeah. And then Microsoft has bought Framework, and there are so many other AI startups out there. I say AI, but those services are quite high level, so you can create artificial conversation even without like knowledge encoding. So let's say if you are creating like a customer service bot, you can just set up certain template like conversations from their UI. So I don't think there is such word, but I kind of tend to call it like AI as service. So those services have really good interface that you can just click and add, and you don't even have to, specify or like define any conversations because those services usually provide some, template conversations. So I have the demo later, sure do. So this is actual example. So let's say, hi, I want to book a flight, and in this case, in that conversation, maybe the user might, user might not know if that she's talking to a bot or a human, if it's, all that happen in text conversation. And actually KLM, I'd say airline in Amsterdam, I think, actually has a bot. So KLM has this bot, works for, I believe it's a Facebook Messenger. So you can book a flight or get status update and such. And there are NLP platforms and APIs out there too. So unlike the one I showed earlier, these all, I would say more like hardcore NLP platforms. So IBM Watson and Google Cloud NLP APIs, and Microsoft, Amazon, Baidu, probably more companies, like all the big players are actually really investing in all those fields here. So yes, so when you want to build on conversational interface with JavaScript, so those APIs I've been talking about that support JavaScript. I mean, you can just use it when they have REST APIs or could be JS SDKs, and Slack has JavaScript SDK as well. As well as a third-party frameworks, I mean libraries and such. So this is the example I have created with API.ai and a Facebook Messenger. So I'm just using a Node.js here. It's really nothing really serious here. It's just using API.ai and Node.js SDK here, and using, it's just the SDK. And I actually have this bot hosted on Facebook, and I always see some random people talking to my bot. Yeah, it's funny, it's like every single day, but I'm not monitoring, and I didn't write a code to put in DB or doing anything. But this is just some dumb artificial conversation, just saying hi, how are you doing? But I added some other APIs to make it a little more interesting, like weather API, so you can ask my bot, how's the weather today in San Francisco? Anyways. So in this case, yes, it's a Node.js. So like again, there's a no UI, so it's no browser and front-end JavaScript involved for this example. And another example I have actually built is using IBM Watson and Slack. So basically, Watson is monitoring the conversation and see how that person who typed the message feel. It's just a simple short video I have created by myself. It's not nice, but yeah, I made a hardware part too. Actually, IBM gave me this little robot. So I have a Raspberry Pi inside. So I can do everything in software, but I thought it was just nice to use. It's just fun to use hardware. So this LED is an indicator for the emotion of each conversation. Yeah. So basically how it works is read each message in a Slack channel by using the Slack API, and send a message to IBM Watson to examine that sentiment from that text. And if the likelihood of the emotion is above a given confidence threshold, that's something you can config. And post the most prominent emotion. So in the hardware case, if it's angry, it shows a red light and stuff. So this is the same, just using simple Node.js and Express.js. So yeah, in that case, the event callback, don't worry too much about it. It's just a Slack API part. But basically, when event, like message posted type of event, it's called, it just dumped the whole text into Watson, IBM Watson. So this is just the Watson part. So basically taking the most prominent emotion here and determine what the person is feeling. So if it's angry, I just show the red LED, because it's RGB LED, so you can change the color. So it depends on the emotion. I'm changing the color of the LED. So that can be really applied to the real life scenario. Let's say the customer service bot. And if you detect, your bot can detect your angry customer, so you can actually send a real human. I don't know if anyone's actually doing this, but I believe some companies do. I don't really know about behind the scene about, a serious bots in the customer service world. But let's say, okay, so now I'm going to switch the gear a little bit because I'm going to talk about the browser, the web technology. So, okay, conversational interface, cool, but well, it's not about, let's say if you're a front-end dev, you want to do something, but all my example I showed today was Node.js and there's no browser UI involved. But now I'm going to talk about browsers. So here's a little project I've done. So I'm creating artificial voice chat. So you can use your voice. Basically, you can talk to your browser. So here's a flow. So first, a user talks to the browser, and the browser converts this voice to text. And you still use some backend, like third-party APIs for processing part. So that replies some artificial conversation. So I'm using, did I use Watson? Or I probably use API.ai, some high-level stuff for this demo. You can use Watson or anything you want. And the third part is browser receives the text from the API and it speaks out. So basically, browser can read any text and you can specify the voice. So there's something called the Web Speech API. So that consists of two different things. And the first one is a speech recognition API. And the next one, I put three because I use the third one here. It's a speech synthesis API. So let me talk about the synthesis API first, because that is more widely supported by browsers. So those 5 browsers, possibly more browsers, do support in the latest version already. But for the speech recognition API, which understands your voice and converts into text, has been only supported by Chromium browsers. So it's only working for Chromium based, so my demo is going to be on Chrome. So when you use a speech recognition, you still need to get the prefix version because it's only supported by few. It's still experimental. The spec might change. And get the instance of a speech recognition controller interface here. Then you can get some properties. You can just have some setup like languages and interim result means, in my case, I put false, but if you put it true, it actually converts your voice to text as you speak. But in my case, just let the browser wait until the user pauses. And there is some methods, start, stop, and board method here. And once you get a result, that's like event-based. So when the result is successfully returned, you can actually grab the transcript text. So that's how it works. So the basically voice to text. And another one is the synthesis part. So I'm just using speech synthesis and a window object. In this case, you don't need a vendor prefix anymore. So it's more stable spec for the browser, which is good. And you can get some property. You get instance here and you get property of text. So this is actually just give it some text, string here, whatever. And you can switch the pitch. And you can select the voice here too. I leave it a default. And of course, the voice setting is different, depends on OS and your language setting as well. So funny thing I found is when I'm using default on Chrome on desktop, it's a guy, like a dude's voice. But when I'm using Chrome and Android, it's female voice. So it really depends on the operating system you are using here. So that was the part, just text to voice. the browser read out the text. And the third-party APIs I was talking about, it's using a Node.js. So I'm using the socket IO here from the browser for the real-time communication. So once you just pass the string, like text string, to Node.js server, processing here with the API.ai SDKs, and get back to the reply text, and sync to the browser so the browser can speak out. So I have a demo. I hope it works though. Hello?
Hi there, friend.
Cool. How are you doing?
Feeling wonderful.
You know what? I'm on the stage right now at ForwardJS. Isn't that cool?
I didn't get that. Can you say it again?
You suck.
Can you say that again?
So apparently I didn't really config this bot in a smarter way, so it doesn't really understand anything smart, but of course you can do that too. But that was a nice little demo, and it's really, the browser, I'm using a Chrome, so you can talk to a Chrome now. Bye. Didn't hear me. Goodbye.
Till next time.
So I actually written up this whole API, so how you can use it, and the explanation about like how you use it and third-party APIs and everything, and Smashing magazine. So if you're interested, actually everything's written there. So, well, no matter what that is, when we're talking about bot, AI, whatsoever, it's always about human. We are always creating our services and apps for the human users. So a bot interface really is a human interface. So remember Clippy? Clippy, I can say that was really one of the earliest conversational interface. But the problem was, it's always appearing when you don't need the goddamn Clippy. It was just annoying. And yes, the dude never really answers your questions or doesn't ask you a question you're looking for. But, well, maybe now with all those technologies, Clippy can be reborn if Microsoft tried to. So that would be great. So yes, that was my talk, and I thank you so much, and I enjoy the rest of your day.